What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to be giving you 10 surprising sports metaphors that are in common usage nowadays in the English language. The first is, my bad. My bad is actually from basketball, from a specific player. His name is Manute Bol, a Dinka tribesman who would say my bad instead of my fault anytime he made a mistake on the basketball court, and this just became incorporated into the modern day vernacular. Next is in your face. Although in your face actually sounds like it's just been a part of the English language forever, the phrase actually comes from 1980s basketball, where it meant like a defensive play, to be in your face. You're in someone's face so they can't make a good shot. And then it was incorporated into hip-hop and rap vernacular, and that just spread into the mainstream since then. The next phrase is lucky break. So anytime you have a bit of fortune going your way, you would say, oh, I got a lucky break. This actually comes from billiards or pool, which, I mean, if you know the game, you'll understand it, that if you have in the beginning you break the balls, when you rack them up, you actually queue up and break them apart when you're starting the game. And so if you had a very good one, they would say, oh, that's a lucky break. And that just was popularized for just meaning any sort of good outcome. Also coming from billiards is the word fluke. Fluke also means, has to do with fortune, but being some sort of good fortune that is somewhat random or unforeseen. In billiards, a fluke is when you hit the ball and it is not your intention, but it ends up being a very good play, even better than what you were aiming for. And so now you can see how it would just be, oh, it was a fluke, a stroke of good luck. Weirdly, the fluke seems to come from an Old English word that just means guess. So you can kind of see where, oh, if you're just hitting the ball randomly, you're kind of just, it's guesswork where it's going to be going. And so that's where we get the word. The next word we're talking about is bias. Now bias, well, nowadays it's mainly known as being something of along the political spectrum, where if you have a bias towards one group or the other, you have a political bias, or sometimes they even speak of racial bias. But it actually comes from, of all places, bowling. Bowling, while it seems kind of a modern day sport, actually goes all the way back to the 1500s in the medieval Europe, where they would set up just sticks and they would throw a rock or a bowling ball, a rock or a ball, and just try and knock over the sticks. It's evolved since then, but that's the origin. And they believe that bias actually comes from an old French word. The French word, I think, is biases? Bias? I don't know French. I'm pronouncing it way wrong, but it's actually from an old French word. Old French word actually means slope or slant. And you can kind of see how when you're playing the game, if the ground was sloped or slanted towards a certain way, it would give you an edge. And it being incorporated into the political, religious, racial concept, that happens actually pretty early too. Even in the 1600s, the word is starting to be described that way. Next phrase is raise or lower the bar. Now this comes from pole vaulting, actually. And that's where when you are doing even better and you need to raise the bar to go over it, you can jump even higher. That means that something's doing even better, or if you need to lower the bar, that means it's doing worse. Eventually it just became incorporated into general usage of just meaning something's either becoming better or something's getting worse. Next phrase is dark horse. This comes from horse racing, and in the political context it means an unlikely candidate that actually ends up winning. And in the same sense, in a horse race, it just comes from the fact that it's a horse that is... In horse racing, the horse's heritage or breeding actually was very important. So a dark horse actually comes from the fact that nothing is known about the horse's heritage or who its sires were. So it has nothing to do with the actual color of the horse, it's just the history of the horse or the pedigree of the horse is unknown. So it's known as the dark horse. And you can see how that was eventually transferred into the political realm. The next phrase is hands down. This phrase essentially means no competition. So if it's the best in things, hands down. So don't even argue with me. And this comes actually from also horse racing, where when the jockey is several feet in a sure victory, he wouldn't have to like whip the horse anymore. He would just keep his hands down, and so he would win the race hands down. While nowadays free for all just means anarchy or just there being no rules, originally it just meant a horse race that you did not have to pay to get into. See, old horse racing, you had to pay a fee to let your horse enter the race. So a free-for-all where just like anyone could bring in their horses and they would just race for it. It was free for all. So nowadays the term essentially just means it's a you were going down something that led to nothing. So a detective was investigating something, but that turned up nothing, so it was just a wild goose chase. It also comes from horse racing, but it has nothing to do with geese. It's just an old game they played where one person would be out in front, and they formed like a flying V, like as if they were geese, and the game was the back ones would just have to follow the front one wherever he went in this V formation as they were going around a field, an open field. And it has nothing to do with what the meaning of it is nowadays, but that's just where the term came from. So that's been 10 surprising metaphors that originate in sports. I got all the metaphors from The Field Guide to Sports Metaphors book. That's not a plug, you don't have to buy it, it was okay. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. If you're going to start trying to be athletic or be healthy, it's kind of fun to find out interesting facts about sports and how influential they are into modern society. So, thanks. See you next time.